Hey guys, this is Devin and this is Barefoot Props. Today we're going to talk about how to get started on your cosplay, specifically template creation. Where do you get started at? How do you get that? And the technique that I use to make these guys right here out of foam. So stay tuned. Let's say you came up with a cosplay idea, whether it's a mashup between two different characters, a gender bend cosplay, your favorite superhero, your favorite video game character. It all starts in one point, and the biggest and most difficult part where a lot of people get frustrated and overwhelmed is how am I going to do it? And so in this short video, hopefully it's going to be short, I'm going to show you the technique that I use to help me rough in and shape so that I can build things like this out of EVA foam. This is a Monster Hunter bone helm that I recently made for Dragon Con, and so this is an EVA foam build. It's very lightweight. You can see probably inside here some of the seams and stuff inside. So this was a full EVA foam build. So there's no 3D printed parts. There's nothing like this. This was built from this technique that I'm about to show you. My daughter also, we made these Ahsoka head tails. And this is also made with the same technique. So the tools you'll need for this is aluminum foil, masking tape, duct tape, hot glue gun, Sharpie, scissors, sharp knife, heat gun, and when we're going to attach the foam back together, we'll need some contact cement. Okay. I'll show you a quick example here. This is kind of the form that we made, the roughed in form for the Ahsoka head tails that I showed you just a minute ago. And again, most of the time you don't have to do both sides. You just need to do enough to mirror it out. So we're going to rough sculpt using the aluminum foil and hot glue to kind of get us our shape that we want. And then we're going to coat that shape with duct tape, because the duct tape helps the horn, helps smooth it out some. So we're just going to go ahead and start shaping like a ram's horn here. So, and after we coat it with duct tape, we're going to put one more layer of aluminum foil, not glued on, just loosely on top of it, and then we're going to coat that with masking tape. As you see, I'm kind of just roughing in the rough shape of like a horn. So let's say, so I'm going to speed this up, keep working on this. Alright, so now that we got it finished sculpting out of the aluminum foil and we have our roughed in horn, we're just going to coat one more layer of aluminum foil. So it seems like we're doing a lot of aluminum foil, but there's a method to this madness, because this keeps the tape from sticking to what you made. So it doesn't have to be perfect, just kind of rough it on there. Make sure everything is covered. Now we might even get this covered in one piece. So now that we've got that done, we're going to put some masking tape on to cover up the aluminum foil I just put on. So we're just going to build a good solid layer of masking tape. last and final step before we get to start cutting foam is that we need to draw out our cut lines for our templates. And so essentially how this works is that when you're cutting EVA foam is essentially flat. It's, you know, whether you're using like a large sheet or craft foam from Hobby Lobby or the anti-fatigue floor mat EVA foam, they're all flat. There are some foam clays that they're coming out with now that show some promise, but still they're a little bit pricey. So just basic flat EVA foam is the way to go. So how do you make something like this out of something that's flat? And you know, one answer is that you have templates. And so what we need to do is we're gonna cut this up in a manner that allows each individual piece of this to lay flat on a piece of paper or flat on a piece of EVA foam. So I'm gonna divide this up into 4s, just so I know that they're gonna be like kind of narrow enough to make sure they can make the curves. So we're just gonna kind of look at the bottom here and divide this up into 4 equal sections. You know, some objects you may want to cut in different areas, but since this is basically a round horn, just dividing in 4 should do the trick. And so from that, I'm just going to come on up here and trace these lines all the way around to the tip. And while we're tracing each of the lines, we're going to put little hash marks. And so these are going to be what helps us glue the EVA foam back together again. So it kind of gives us a pattern to match up. Sorry if I'm blowing in the microphone. I tend to do that when I'm thinking. Unlike some people who stick their tongue out. I won't name anybody in my family that does that. I'll give you his initials. Kirk. Yeah, he does that. One of my daughters had a orthodontist that would do that. They'd be working on their braces. He'd stick his tongue out. Freak them out. He's concentrating, so. But I try not to make too many noises. Sorry, I'm tickling myself thinking about that story. It's kind of they come out of the orthodontist, be freaked out. He had his tongue stuck out. Good orthodontist, though. All right. Quit laughing at my own little stories here. You can tell it's getting a little late out here on the Barefoot farm, so maybe I'm getting a little silly. So, all right, so we're just going to continue making these hash marks. Got one more line to draw, and then we're going to mark all these parts so we know which ones are which. So, all right, so I've got all 4 lines marked with hash marks all the way out to the tip. And so we're just going to go mark these here. So like 1 and 1, and then 2 and 2. Because once I cut these things off, they're all going to look the same. 3 and 3, and 4 and 4. And so, all right, gang, so the next thing you need is just a good sharp knife. And we're just going to cut down through here and free these things off. So. We have our 4 templates, and all we need to do is to flatten them out. So if you're unable to flatten them out without distorting the image too much, then you need to add extra cut lines. So just kind of keep that in mind. Our goal is to keep this pretty much the way it was. All right, so now that these are flat, the next step is to get some EVA foam, and we'll trace those on there, mark those little hash marks, and glue it all together. So we'll probably do that in a time lapse also, but I'll show you getting started and we'll go from there. What in the heck? What in the heck is all this stuff, Rocket? We'll check it out. Am I a pretty girl? All right, now that we got our templates made, I just pinned them to a piece of 1/4-inch foam. This is EVA foam. This is actually a 2-pound density, which is probably a little bit easier to work with small horns like this. So I'm gonna trace these on, and we'll probably speed the video up, so I'm gonna kind of do some descriptions while I'm first going here. But as you just need to trace the outlines of each one of these. Again, make sure they're laying flat on the EVA foam. And don't forget to mark your registrations and your side numbers. Okay, so you can piece all this stuff back together again. It's very important that you transcribe those registrations exactly where they go, because when you force those to go back in the same direction, that's what puts the curve back in the horn again. So, and you can notch out the template if you want to, like put a little notch in where the registration is, so you can trace it right on the inside, because you're going to be cutting off the outside here. But when the template is as small as these are, if I notch them out, sometimes they come a little unstable. So I think for this extent, I'll just mark them, and then after I take the template off, I'll mark the inside, because you're going to be cutting it out, and so you'll lose your registration marks if you don't mark the inside. So I'll just trace it on across afterwards. So. Okay, so now we have our 4 parts of our swords. So I am going to take a little heat to these before I start putting them together, and just go ahead and put a little bit of curve. When I say sword, I mean horn. It'll help seal the foam too. We're just going to kind of go ahead and preemptively curve this. Alright, so we're going to turn this off now. Now we're going to put a good coat of barge cement on all the sides. The contact cement of any type is okay. I think weld wood that you can usually get at Lowe's or Home Depot, at least in my area you can. It's a little thinner. Maybe dries a little quicker. And I use it when a lot of times it's nice when you're just sticking a whole bunch of sheets together of EVFM, because it goes on a little bit easier. But it's also a little bit more, I don't know, it seems a little bit more brittle to me. I feel like the barge gives, for like a small seam like this, gives a stronger adhesion, a little bit longer work time because it dries a little bit slower. So I can paint all 4 of these pieces. so now that we got it all coated, we're just going to give this a few minutes to start to dry and become tacky, and then we'll stick it all together. All right, so these are dry now, so we're going to start putting these suckers together. So again, we're going to look for numbers. Here is 4 and 3. This is 4 and 1. So let's see, let's put these two together first. Okay, so we're just going to line up the bottom edge. And so when the seams don't line up, we want to make sure that we stretch it to make sure they line up, because that's what rounds things off. So sometimes you have to tug, sometimes you have to pull. Just kind of make sure you're keeping your fingers, keeping that top edge, because that's the clean edge. That's the edge you want to be clean. Now, with this contact cement, you can sand it. So, I mean, it's not the end of the world if you have to hit it with a Dremel or something like that. But, I mean, anytime you can save yourself a little work and get a cleaner seam, the better it's going to sand out. So the first couple pieces are the easiest, and then it gets a little more difficult as we go along. But here's that one. Let's see what else we got here. We got 1 and so let's put this 1, because that's really going to help pull this around. So you can see these two, 1 and 1 here, they're pretty much curved the opposite direction, but as we put this together, it's what's going to form that shape in the horn. So again, we're going to start down here at the bottom, line up the bottom edge. We're just going to slowly start putting those lines back together, and like I say, if you get them a little crooked, just pull it back apart. And there you have it, guys. The aluminum full sculpture to a EVA foam horn. That's super lightweight, easy way to build it, inexpensive. It's got the nice shape. We just need to sand it up and finish it up, guys. But hopefully this video was helpful. This has been a technique that I've used for multiple complex items, which I've shown those at the start of the video. And so it's a simple process. You just need to take it to its full extent. So again, thanks for watching. This is Devin from Barefoot Props. Y'all have a good day.
Boy Rocket. Are you a good boy? Are you a good boy, Rocket? Yes, you are. Yes, you are.